So let's see, you bought a new gun. Now it's time to buy a scope for it. What do you buy? A lot of options out there. What magnification, fixed or variable, what objective lens size, coatings, reticles, the list goes on and on. But before you sit down and go through all the technical mumbo jumbo, have you asked the right questions? What's your style of hunting? Do you even need a scope? So stay tuned. We'll discuss sights that suit your style. How's it going? Welcome back to the channel. I've been getting some questions recently asking what sights I use on my deer rifle, specifically what scope I use on one of my rifles. The gun that I predominantly hunt with is a Remington Model 7400 chambered in .270. And if you're interested in why I choose that gun for most of my deer hunting, I'll put a link right up here. On that gun, I use a Leupold VX-3 1.5-5x20mm. And I wanted to address why I decided to go with the scope on that gun. You know, there's a lot of options for sights out there. There's a lot of options for scopes. There's a lot of technical aspects that come along with purchasing a scope. And I really think if we answer some very basic questions to start off, it can actually save us a lot of time in selecting the perfect sight for that gun and for our style of hunting. So let's get to it. So hypothetically, let's say you just bought a new rifle for deer hunting and you're gonna buy a new scope for it, right? That's what we do. That's what we're told we need nowadays. We gotta put a scope on that rifle. Well, I think the very first question you need to consider is, what is my style of hunting? Do I still hunt? Do I hunt from a stand? Do I track? Do I walk a lot? Am I gonna be shooting from a tripod or am I gonna be shooting freehand? A lot of things to consider that are going to be involved in your style of hunting, and that should be the very first question you ask yourself. So for me, when I ask myself, okay, I bought a new rifle, I'm using it for deer hunting. My predominant style of deer hunting is I'm a deer tracker, so I'm going to walk a lot of miles, I'm going to carry the gun all day long, it's not going to be slung, I'm going to be shooting freehand. A lot of the shots are going to be close, and a lot of shots are going to be fast. I'm looking for a sight that's lightweight, sleek, has fast target acquisition. I would like a little magnification in case if I'm gonna have a long distance shot, but most of my shots are gonna be under 100 yards. Therefore, a peep would be fantastic. You know, someone hunting from a stand doesn't have to worry about weight. They may not be shooting freehand. They probably want greater magnification. Target acquisition isn't a big deal. How much light does it gather? So things like that are gonna be involved in their style of hunting. The next question would be, do I even need a scope? Everything is about telescopic optic. There's so many scopes on the market, so much available, and that's kind of what we default to when we buy a rifle. We gotta put a scope on it. Is this scope gonna be best suited for our style of hunting? Me as a deer tracker, I can probably say I can live without a scope. You know, a lot of the guys that hunt in the Northeast the way I do, deer tracking, opt for a peep sight, which is a great option. So if you don't need a scope, you can save a lot of time and a lot of money right there trying to find the right sight for your gun. So a lot of things to consider regarding your style of hunting, what the application of that sight's going to be, and how it's going to best serve your needs. So there's a lot of sight options. Let's go over the 3 main sight options I want to cover in this. We'll keep it pretty basic. We're not going to get into a whole bunch of technical stuff, but really just kind of the fundamentals on choosing a sight that's going to really suit your needs well, that fits your gun well, and have everything kind of line up perfectly to have the best hunting experience and the best shooting experience. So the 3 main options that most people are familiar with that you're going to come across are going to be iron sights, peep sights, and telescopic sights, so scopes. Iron sights or open sights, you know, everyone's pretty familiar with those. That's what comes standard on a gun. Typically you buy a new gun, it's going to have a set of iron sights on it. So some of the pros of an iron sight, and maybe this is all you'll need to hunt with, is they're cheap, they usually come with a gun, they allow for fast target acquisition, they're light, have a great field of view, and they're pretty durable. So we do have some cons that come with iron sights. One is going to be limited range. You're not going to be shooting 500 yards with a set of iron sights confidently, at least I'm not. They have poor light gathering. Probably the biggest downfall for me with iron sights is the fact that you have 3 points of focus that have to be used to shoot an iron sight, and that can allow the target and or the front bead to be blurred out. So your eye can't focus on 3 different focal points all at once. But it's been used for years, people are successful with it. I've been successful with it. Shot my first deer with a 30-30 lever action with iron sights. Works fine for a lot of people. Maybe a better option for your style of hunting. So in the next succession of sights, we'll talk about peep sights, also known as aperture sights. So with the peep, when you look through that aperture or that rear peep, your eye naturally centers the bead in the middle of that peep. Then all you have to focus on is basically putting your front bead on the target. You don't have to worry about lining up that rear sight at all because it all happens naturally. And it makes it a much more natural shooting situation. So what are the pros of a peep sight? Well, they're relatively cheap. You can get them for under $100 sometimes, but usually $100 to $200 for a good peep sight. They're durable. They allow for fast target acquisition. And another benefit is that looking through a peep allows only the focused rays of light to come through to meet the eye, so your target actually looks sharper. The downfall with the peep sight is they have limited range and they're poor at light gathering. So and lastly, we have telescopic, also known as a scope. What all those numbers mean when you're looking at a scope is usually the first number that you see is going to be the magnification of the scope. So the scope that I use is variable magnification, 1.5 to 5, so low power. And then usually on the end, you're going to have a bell, or what they call the objective lens. And that's going to be responsible for its light gathering capabilities. So obviously the larger the objective lens, is going to allow it to gather more light. The more light that a scope can gather, the sharper the image is going to be, and therefore probably increase the accuracy. So what are some of the pros of buying a scope? Well, scoping a gun allows for longer range, so you can magnify your target. It's got enhanced light gathering capabilities, so early morning, late at night, low light situations, it's going to gather a lot more light and allow you to see that target more clearly. Oftentimes a target that you may not be able to see with the naked eye, you'd be able to identify with a scope. And they're very versatile. You get them in various sizes, fixed magnification, variable magnification. Yeah, there's a lot of options out there to try to get the right scope for your needs. What are some of the cons? Well, they're definitely more expensive. They weigh more, they're more complex, and they can get clogged with stuff, especially if you're chasing deer, snow-covered trees, they can get clogged with snow. Why did I end up going with a scope, and why did I choose the scope that I did? This scope is lightweight. It comes in at just about 10 ounces. A lot of scopes are going to be 13 ounces and up, even heavier. It's small and sleek. It has a small objective lens. So the second reason I went with the scope is magnification. This one is 1.5 to 5. I keep the scope on 3 to 4 power. I would have liked to have had a fixed power scope. Fixed power scopes are lighter weight. 4 power or 3 power would have been fine. I could have used it in every situation that I needed to. Had a good field of view, relatively fast target acquisition, and that would have served me really well. This scope paired well with my gun. This 7400 has a slightly elevated cone, which doesn't suit it well for shooting iron sights or a peep sight. My cheek's up a little bit above the barrel of the gun. I basically can close my eyes and pull this gun up and then open them, and I'm looking perfectly through the scope. The eye relief's perfect, everything's lined up, so it fits this gun really well. Lastly, probably the biggest reason that got me started down this road of these scopes was the Benoits used them. One of their early videos, Shane Benoit was using a VX-3 1.5 to 5. And he shot a deer at quite a distance with it in the prone position, and it was a pretty amazing shot. The Benoits are using them, I gotta figure, yeah, there's something about it that works. So all in all, I've been happy with it. I've used it a long time. So it's a VX-3 1.5 to 5 by 20 millimeters. Comes in right now at about $500, $499, I believe it's listed on their website. They do make the same exact scope with what they call a fire dot reticle. I'm not interested in that just because it's $700 and it requires batteries, so another thing to go wrong. And it's a little heavier, it comes in at about 12 ounces. So there you have it. That's how I go about choosing a sight for my gun. And that's why I went with the scope and why I chose this particular scope for this gun. Ask the simple questions first, can save you a lot of time and money right out of the gates. I hope that answers some questions. Hope it helps someone out, especially if you're new to the sport. There's so much marketing stuff and so many things that we're told that we need to have that we really don't need. Really getting down to the fundamentals of why it is that you're doing what you're doing and how you do it. You answer those questions and you can really streamline the process really well. Because hunting is not supposed to be complicated. It doesn't need to be over technical. It's supposed to be fun. So I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, get outside. It's good for the soul. See ya.